Google's Core Web Vitals are combined metrics used to measure a website across a series of key performance indicators. Next month, these Core Web Vitals will become a ranking signal. That means that if your website falls foul of these metrics, you might see a traffic loss for your hotel. In this video, I'll explain what these metrics are and where you can find them in case you should see a downward trend in your traffic. In the graphic, you can see how each of the three values are represented and the minimum thresholds for each. Google's Core Web Vitals use these three metrics. First, how long it takes for the main part of a web page to load, LCP, the technical largest contentful paint. Second, how long it takes for the web page to become interactive, or first input delay. And third, how much the web page layout moves around once it's loaded, the cumulative layout shift. Notice I said web page and not website. That's right, these measurements are applied at a page and not a domain level. You might have pages that pass and pages that fail. For each Web Vital metric, Google selects from poor through to needs improvement and finally good values. If we were in school, we might expect that poor is going to be considered a fail, while needs improvement might be the suggestion that as long as you keep trying and making improvements, your page will not suffer a penalty. Obviously, everyone wants a nice green tick for good. As you can see from this graphic, these standards are not going to remain cast in stone. Here, Google is stating that these performance scores have been identified for the year 2020. It means that looking to the future, a hotel, as well as other businesses, will need to invest in website performance to cling on to free traffic and be expected to jump through more hoops to optimize web assets and deliver a great experience for Google's users. So let's take a look at where you can access these reports for your own hotel, and then how to interpret the results and take action. After logging into Google Search Console, find your hotel property and then go to Core Vitals from the sidebar menu. If your hotel doesn't have access to Google Search Console, just ask your web agency for read access, as this protects their work from an accidental or damaging button click. Here's Core Web Vitals. As you can see in my example, the report is split between mobile and desktop Core Web Vitals, and that captures the Google Universe experience and allows you to see on which devices there are problems. On my screen, you can see that I have data appearing in these tables, but for your own hotel, you might find that these graphs are empty. If that's the case, you will see a link in this area which will take you to the Page Speed Insights report, where you can run a manual test. In my case, I can see that while there were some URLs that needed improving on mobile, after these changes were made, Google considered these pages to be healthy. By contrast, if I look at the desktop, I can see that some URLs could do with some improvement. And so let's see what Google would like us to do in their ideal world. So I'm going to click on Open Report. Now I can see that up until the 16th of March, these pages were performing poorly. However, when I change the selection, I can see that from the 17th onwards, those pages improved slightly, although Google still believes that those pages could be improved further. Let's click here to find out which URLs had this problem. If you look below, you can see the specific URL which had the problem. As we have already fixed this page, you can't see the process to tell Google when you have made the fix and that it is ready for review. But just to let you know, first you would click on this button, See Details. When that button expands, you would then see a second button which says Validate Fix. Once you push that button, the Google Spider will then revisit your page within the next 30 days or so and confirm that the change has been successfully made. Core Web Vitals is quite an exclusive club, in as much as the requirements being placed on hotels and other businesses that would want to get preferential listings in Google are quite onerous. Consider the need of having a content delivery network, advanced code optimizations, and other conditional loading options for mobile and desktop as minimum standards. It does start to look quite expensive. So what are the takeaways? First, make sure your website loads in under 3 seconds. This seems to be a safe and reliable benchmark for hotel performance going forward. Second, if you're using an open source content management system such as WordPress, make sure that only those third-party plugins that are entirely necessary are the ones that are active on your website. And secondly, that the design template for your theme is regularly updated. Third, make sure your hotel is using an HTTP2 enabled server, as this will allow files to be loaded in most browsers much faster than the historic HTTP1 protocol. Fourth, perform code optimizations so that non-critical JavaScript can, for example, be deferred in the page load, and this will stop it blocking user interaction with your website and therefore increase your performance scores for those previously discussed Google metrics. Fifth, implement a content delivery network, and this will ensure that server assets can be delivered to users in their local region. In other words, they'll see the web pages faster wherever they are in the world. Instead of having to connect the web server where you host, which could be thousands of miles from their location, this way assets are served locally to them. Sixth, if you're in the process of designing a new website, give serious consideration to the guest experience on mobile and ask whether or not they really need to have the same experience as their desktop tablet view. As you've seen in the report, Google's already looking at desktop and mobile as two separate entities, so I think it's safe and reliable to do something similar in terms of building new design into websites.